Hey guys, PepperAmmy here. This week we are looking at something for Thanksgiving, and that is cornbread served with lemon roasted Brussels sprouts and chicken. Now personally, I've never made or even tasted cornbread, and just like last year, I've never tasted pumpkin pie or made pumpkin pie, but that turned out absolutely amazing, so here goes. Now to start, you want to make some honey butter. Now once again, this is something I've never had, but it is totally worth it. Now you want to take some nice creamy room temperature butter. Now the best way that I found to do this was to basically make my own butter. Now you can make butter without any fancy tools or anything. I simply just made it literally by hand using a bowl, and that was just to use my hand as a whisk. And you just whisk the double cream past the point of whipped cream until the butter fat starts to separate from the buttermilk. Now of course you can just put this in a jar and shake it, or use a whisk or a stand mixer or anything like that, but this is just to prove the fact that you don't need any equipment to make butter. And then you just want to squeeze any excess buttermilk from the butter fats. Now you can do this in some cold water, is a nice cold water bath, and then fold in some salt, and there you have it, some homemade butter. Now about 500 ml of cream made enough butter and buttermilk for this whole recipe, including greasing a pan. Then take half a cup or 1 stick or 115 grams of your butter, homemade or shop bought, and then combine with 2 tablespoons of pure honey. Now Charlotte got this amazing honey from a local honey producer, and it tastes better than anything you can find on any supermarket shelf, so if you can buy local honey, feel free to do so, it tastes amazing. And then mix this. You don't have to mix it 100%, it's nice to actually have small pockets of honey throughout the butter rather than an even mixture, as when the butter melts you get these nice beautiful pockets of honey just dripping down the bread. And then once your mixture is combined, place in the fridge and chill. Now one of the main items you'll need is cornmeal. Now I've seen this in the shop a few times, but it was nowhere to be seen on my recipe shopping trip, so I had to do with homemade cornmeal instead. Now for this, just take some dried popcorn kernels and blend them in a high power blender or food presser. Now apart from making a ton of noise, my food processor apparently isn't powerful enough to do so. So in a true David versus Goliath style, my small spice grinder stepped in to do what my food processor couldn't, and it made absolute short work of the popcorn. You want to sift any of the large chunks out using a fine mesh sieve. Now you are aiming for 1 cup or 160 grams of fine cornmeal, and then add that to a bowl with 1 cup or 125 grams of all-purpose flour, and 1/4 cup or 50 grams of sugar, and 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and finally a teaspoon of salt. Then in a separate bowl you want to prepare the wet ingredients, so you want 1 cup or 240 ml of milk. Now as an alternative, I used my own buttermilk that I made from the butter. Then 2 large eggs, 6 tablespoons, 3/4 of a stick or 85 grams of melted butter. Then whisk that together, add in the dry ingredients and give a good mix until combined. Then you want to butter a baking dish, or even better a cast iron skillet, and transfer the batter to the prepared pan. And then you want to bake this in the oven until the top is golden brown, around 15 to 20 minutes should do. And just like a cake, a toothpick can be inserted and comes out completely clean. And then let cool for around 10 minutes before slicing. Now growing up as a child, my mum had a hard time convincing us kids to eat Brussels sprouts. Now the way she used to cut Brussels sprouts was boiling them with some lemon juice, and as a kid, we still knew they were Brussels sprouts. They tasted a bit better than just boiled Brussels sprouts, but it was still a Brussels sprout. And now I've had some time to experiment with cooking, I've adapted the recipe slightly, and instead of boiling, I find slow roasting them with some lemon, garlic and some sweet shallots, as a slower cooking lets them infuse with the flavours better over a longer time. And let's face it, if you were going to boil them for 40 minutes, no. But if you slow roast them for 40 minutes, it's a complete game changer. Now I want to start by taking a bag of fresh sprouts that's around 1 pound or 500 grams. Slice the woody stalk end off and half, and then place in a bowl. Then slice a whole lemon and place the slices in the bowl. If you have some end pieces that aren't really much good, you can simply try and squeeze some of the juice or the zest over the Brussels sprouts and then just discard those into your compost bag. Then drizzle over some olive oil and, for my go-to, roast bulb of garlic. Now simply slice the root end off, leaving the papery shell intact, and place in the bowl. This makes it a lot easier later on to actually get the garlic out, as you don't actually have to squeeze too hard, it's just not going to be attached at the top. And now for the chicken seasoning. Mince or crush 3 cloves of garlic, add a tablespoon of paprika, some dried turmeric, and mince together with some oil. Now if you want to add a slightly sweeter taste to your seasoned chicken, you can add in a teaspoon or 2 of honey as well, and then mix together until it makes a paste. Now I've had this bag of shallots looking at me for a while I made the paste, so I guess I should peel half or even quarter the shallots. And I find that 1 shallot per person or per serving works well, and then add these to the bowl with the sprouts. Now personally, I'm cooking the sprouts and chicken in my cast iron Dutch oven that has been heating in the oven whilst the cornbread cooks, but you could just use a simple baking tray instead. Then you just want to add the marinades to the chicken. I'm using thighs and drumsticks, and then place your sprout mix in your baking vessel of choice, place the chicken over the top. Now as an added bonus, as the chicken cooks, the juices will drip over the sprouts, adding to the flavour of the sprouts. Then you want to cook this until the sprouts are tender and the chicken reads 165 Fahrenheit or 75 degrees Celsius at its thickest part and the juices run clear. Then simply serve and enjoy. And now for the taste test. The cornbread is good. Personally, I found it a little bit crunchy, but that is probably due to not using like an ultra fine cornmeal and using the homemade one. Now, if cornmeal does appear in the shop again, I will look into making it again and having a comparison. And the honey butter is simply amazing. But personally, even as a guy with a sweet tooth, it was a bit sweet to have as a side. Now I know an American Thanksgiving dish is a sweet potato casserole, which is sweet potatoes topped with marshmallows. So I guess for that meal a sweet bread could work as well, but it was kind of more like a cake, kind of desserty for me personally. And as for the sprouts, apart from the boiling hot temperature as they went into my mouth just as they came out the oven, they taste far better than boiled sprouts, and slow roasting them is definitely the way I prefer them. Anyway, that does it for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me know down below. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe for free weekly cooking content. I wish all of you a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and I'm thankful for every one of you watching the videos, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks for watching.
So what are you making?
Chicken.
Looks nice.
Well, it's not cooked yet.
No, I realize that.